now recognize Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to briefly address a comment that the ranking member, the representative from Texas, made about my state, California, claiming that our state gives disproportionately to the federal government and is some sort of donor state. Actually, the state of California gives nothing to the federal government. Individuals and businesses do pay taxes, and Governor Newsome's suggestion that we should withhold those taxes, as our Treasury Secretary has pointed out, is threatening to commit the felony of criminal tax evasion. As to this notion that Los Angeles is somehow a model of good governance, just today, Los Angeles came out with its new homelessness numbers. The current count is 72,308. The police chief in LA has formally advised people not to wear jewelry when they go outside because they will get mugged. The city just announced 614 layoffs because the finances are such a mess. And this is to say nothing of the recent riots and the catastrophic wildfires that came after the mayor defunded the fire department.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so continuing our saga on going after these leftist NGOs and the destruction that they bring upon the country is just insane. Going into Kevin Kiley right here, he's kind of a hidden gem, if you will. He's really, really good on these committee hearings, but he has no name recognition, if you will. Like, nobody really knows who Kevin Kiley is. He represents, I forget the district number that's in California. They've got so many of them. I think it's the 15th, but I could be wrong about that, so please don't quote me on that. But it's a pretty good section right here to get into, so y'all smash that like button for me, subscribe if you're new around here, share this video anywhere and everywhere you can, and sign up and become a member. I have to say that, folks. The boss tells me to say that every time he turns on the recording, so y'all do that for me, and let's get into it.
But on to the topic of today's hearing. It's bad enough that we have all of this funding going towards NGOs that then support radical ideological causes. Sort of the logical next step that we've seen is funding organizations that then directly commit or facilitate criminal activity. And this is exactly what we saw with respect to the recent riots in Los Angeles, where you had a group known as CHRLA, the Center for Humane Immigration Rights Los Angeles, that played a central role in organizing the riots. They made use of a hotline through Signal where they would inform rioters at any given moment where ICE personnel could be found, so those individuals could then converge, they could disrupt their operations, they could use commercial dumpsters as battering rams, they could assault officers, and so forth. CHRLA, by the way, has been implicated in other ways in all of the recent chaos that we've seen. For example, the incident where tire spikes were used to disable the vehicles of Border Patrol. The individuals engaging in these crimes were carrying the tire spikes in bags with CHRLA's name on them. And to top it all off, Karen Bass's recent proposal to give cash cards to illegal immigrants supposedly affected by ICE operations are being distributed to them by, you guessed it, CHRLA. So I've introduced a bill, the No Tax Dollars for Riots Act, which will make sure that organizations like this do not continue to get funding, and indeed that they cannot claim tax-exempt status. President Trump has enthusiastically endorsed that bill and said it should be passed immediately. On top of that, this committee, the House Judiciary Committee, has opened an investigation into CHRLA's use of the federal funding that it received during the Biden administration. It also received $34 million from California, accounting for the vast majority of its revenue. It's effectively a subsidiary of the state, or a subsidiary of the sanctuary state, if you will. So, with all that being said, Mr. O'Neill, or if Mr. Gonzalez or our other witnesses would like to chime in on this, how problematic is this that we now have these public taxpayer funds being used to directly facilitate criminal activity?
Extremely. Thank you for your question. Yes, in fact, a lot of the riots we have seen on our streets, the college encampments, all of these things are paid for with CHRLA, I think, by the way, received $30 million, if I'm working from memory.
$34 million, most recently from the state.
Yeah, most recently from the taxpayer, and thank you for making that distinction between the state of California and California's hard-put taxpayers. So CHRLA just raked in government money and was one of the organizers. of the riots we saw in Los Angeles, but everywhere we've seen. You talked about the Tides Foundation in New York, the Answer Coalition, Students for Justice in Palestine. All these groups are either received funding from these dark money people, or are fiscal, or these dark money centers are fiscal sponsors of them. So, I think it is very concerning, even in cases where, and I think in these cases that I'm talking about, crimes have been committed, but even in cases where it's not illegal or criminal, there's such a thing as unseemly and disturbing, and we should be able to talk about these things.
Absolutely, and there's certainly a whole range of conduct that is objectionable, but it's particularly objectionable where the funds are used in a way that actually violates other laws that we have in place. Thank you very much to my colleague from Kansas, Mr. Schmidt, for yielding the time. I yield the remainder of my time to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. And I recognize myself for 5 minutes. I almost don't know where to begin. It was interesting, all the back and forth. And I do have to say this, and it's partially complimentary, and it's just an observation. I do have to admit my friends to the left of me, both geographically and also politically, they're good. They're really good at it. And Mr. Raskin, both of you are, but all of you are actually. Mr. Raskin, particularly good at conflating and blurring. He mentioned immigration. I always bring this up through other hearings as well. There is a difference between legal and illegal immigration. There's a difference. And nobody on this side has any problem with legal immigration. That's what makes America. And let's be clear about it. Illegal immigration, and in some cases where we had people on the terror watch list that were in this country and people that had were convicted or indicted of crimes, either on their country of origin or here, yeah, we're against that. Absolutely. I think we'll all say it proudly. We're against it.
Yeah, I kept that little last section in just because it makes a good point, and it's a point I make all the freaking time. Democrats, they are really good at conflating illegal immigration with just migrants. Oh, these people just want a better life. No, the illegal immigrants, I'm sorry, that's just not the case. What they do, they conflate illegal, actions taken against illegal immigrants, and they say, oh, Donald Trump is going after migrants. Well, he's not. He's deported 0 migrants at this point. I know you might be thinking, well, what about all those college students? Well, no, those were visitors. Those weren't migrants. Those people were just here to go to college, and that's it. They weren't migrating to the country, so those are not migrants. Once again, those were illegal immigrants once, their visas were revoked. But this is what Democrats are very, very, very good at, is obfuscating the facts and manipulating the truth. This is what they do, folks, on a constant basis. And it's sick, talking about all this, getting back to what we was kind of talking about yesterday with, the government, taxpayer dollars funding riots, for crying out loud. Like, I wasn't heavily into politics back in 2020 when BLM was burning the freaking country to the ground, but don't think for a second, folks, that BLM was not funded through NGOs. These NGOs, the great thing about them is they can operate within the United States, right, as a non-governmental organization. And do whatever they want, but that also means that they can go outside of the country. So they can go outside of the country when it gets to these illegal immigrants, and they can set these people up. They give them money for their journey over here. Why not give them a ride for crime? Oh, well, you can't do that, can you? No, that would be violating our laws to give them a ride into the United States because they want them here illegally, because Democrats want indentured servants, folks. You can't get away with slavery anymore, although, in the world, there's more slaves alive today than there ever have been. I think the numbers are like 44 million. Think about that for a second, right? So you got Donald Trump going after, I don't know, cartel-operated weed farms in California. Democrats in the corporate press, they're yelling and screeching, oh, Donald Trump is going after people picking strawberries. Right, folks. Yeah, this is obscene, and I just don't understand how Democrats can get on the side of these criminal aliens and get on the side of these criminal cartels, because that's essentially what they're doing. They're propping up the illegal immigration industrial complex. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just created that. I don't know if anybody has ever put those two things together, but that's essentially what it is. There's a butt ton of NGOs that pretty much make up the criminal alien industrial complex, and it's fascinating. They operate all throughout South and Central America, including North America, of course. And then they're funding riots, and then they're funding all these protests. Think about that for a second, though. You know, your tax dollars. This was especially true under the Biden administration. All right, your tax dollars are going to these NGOs, and these NGOs are spending their money on these far-left projects. Your tax dollars are paying, essentially subsidizing protests. How do you feel about that, y'all? Like, Democrats, anybody out there, how do you feel that your tax dollars are being spent on protests that almost always predictably turn violent for some reason? And then there's protests going on all the time, all of the damn time. It's just fascinating, y'all. And I think I'm gonna wrap this one up, but y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Blows my mind. Y'all make sure and check out my next video. Got a big bombshell report just came out from Tulsi Gabbard, so that you know it's going to be fascinating. So y'all make sure and stay tuned. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.